It's 50,000 BC. The sun just went down. There's no light but the fire in front of you, and there's smoke curling up off the flames and straight into your face. Every human who has ever lived has breathed this smoke for hundreds of thousands of years. Sitting by a fire meant inhaling it every single night, with no way to escape it. So picture yourself there, the cold pressing in, the dark full of things that want to eat you, and this strange gray smoke filling your lung. And at some point, one of your ancestors stopped just breathing it by accident and started breathing it on purpose. So when did ancient humans actually start smoking? And why would anyone choose to inhale something that burns? The answer is older than farming, older than writing, older than every civilization you've heard of. And it didn't start as a vice. It started as something that kept people alive. But first, a question. What do you think the very first thing humans deliberately inhaled was? Drop your guess in the comments now, then see how close you were. Before you can smoke anything, you need fire. And fire has been part of our story for an almost unimaginable amount of time. The oldest solid evidence of controlled fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, around 1 million years ago. Archaeologists found burnt plant ash and charred bone deep inside, not from a wildfire, but from a fire kept burning on purpose. And 1 million years ago, we weren't even modern humans yet. That was Homo erectus, an earlier ancestor, smaller brain, heavier brow, already sitting around fires in the dark. Which means for hundreds of thousands of years, every ancestor who sat by a fire breathed smoke. It was constant. It was unavoidable. It was the original air. And somewhere in all that smoke, humans noticed something that would change us forever. Here's the thing most people never think about. Not all smoke is the same. When you burn wood, you mostly get heat and gray haze. But when you burn other plants, leaves, herbs, resins, you release a whole cocktail of compounds. And some of them do things to the human body. Some calm a cough, some dull pain, some make the head swim. Our ancestors had no chemistry, no labels, no idea what was inside the smoke, but they had something better. Hundreds of thousands of years of trial and error and very long memories. They noticed that the smoke from one plant eased a sick child's breathing, that another made an aching body feel lighter, that a third was best left alone. This wasn't a decision made in a day. It was a slow, dangerous education, and the ones who learned it passed it down. That's the real beginning of smoking. Not a vice, a discovery. Humans paying close attention to what the smoke was doing to them and choosing the smoke that helped. So how far back does the deliberate use go? Further than almost anyone expects. In 2021, researchers studying a site called Wishbone in the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah found a small hearth, a fire pit, that was around 12,000 years old, and tucked inside it were the charred seeds of wild tobacco, not blown in by accident, concentrated, placed there by people sitting at that fire at the end of the Ice Age. 12,000 years. That pushed the known history of tobacco use back by roughly 9,000 years in a single discovery. The lead archaeologist put it simply, tobacco's cultural roots reach all the way back into the Ice Age. To be honest, we can't say for certain whether they smoked it or chewed it, but people were deliberately using this plant by a fire while mammoths still walked the earth. And that raises a haunting question. If humans in Ice Age America were already doing this 12,000 years ago, what was everyone else, all across the world, doing with their own local plants at exactly the same time? Quick one for the comments. 12,000 years old, older or younger than you'd have guessed. And here's the part that gets left out of the story entirely. For most of history, smoke wasn't a vice at all. It was medicine. One of the oldest medical documents on Earth, the Ebers Papyrus from ancient Egypt, around 1550 BC, describes treating problems of the throat and lungs by having the patient inhale the smoke of heated herbs. Read that again. They treated breathing problems with smoke. It sounds insane to us, but the herbs they chose had real effects when inhaled. The ancient Greeks did the same. Hippocrates himself, the founder of medicine, wrote about breathing in herbal vapors to treat disease. And in ancient India, a practice called dhumapana, literally drinking smoke, used medicinal herbs inhaled through a pipe with detailed instructions written down over 3,000 years ago. Think about the logic. The lungs reach deep into the body, straight into the blood. So if a plant can heal, delivering it as smoke gets it there fast. It wasn't madness. It was an early, clever idea about how to get medicine into a body. And we never actually stopped. The asthma inhaler in someone's pocket, the nebulizer in a hospital, the anesthetic gas before surgery, all of it is the same ancient idea. The lungs as a doorway for medicine. The burning part, thankfully, mostly went away. The idea survived. But smoke wasn't only medicine, it was sacred. And the evidence is extraordinary. High in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia, archaeologists opened a 2,500-year-old burial site and found wooden braziers holding superheated stones. And on those stones, the chemical residue of cannabis with unusually high potency. This wasn't growing wild for rope or seeds. It was deliberately burned in a funeral to send the dead off through smoke. And there's a story to match it. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus described a people called the Scythians who would sit inside small closed tents, throw hemp onto hot stones, and breathe the smoke. For centuries, historians assumed he'd made it up or misunderstood. Then archaeologists dug into Scythian burial mounds and found the exact braziers, the heated stones, the hemp residue. He hadn't exaggerated at all. He was just writing down what he saw. Across the world, in the Americas, tobacco was treated the same way, not as a casual habit, but as something holy. Smoke was seen as a living messenger that carried prayers up to the spirit world and brought visions back down. A shaman blowing smoke wasn't taking a break. He was opening a door between worlds. And when something is sacred, you treat it with care. You don't chain smoke it while watching TV. There's one more reason ancient humans gathered around the smoke, and it might be the most important of all. It held the group together. Humans survived by being a group. Alone, we were prey. Together, we were unstoppable. So anything that made a group trust each other, bond, and act as one had enormous survival value. And shared rituals, sitting together, breathing the same smoke, going through the same experience side by side, are one of the most powerful bonding tools humans have ever had. When a group does something together like this, modern science can actually measure what happens. Brain activity syncs up, trust deepens, the sense of us gets stronger. So when ancient people gathered in the smoke around a fire, that wasn't just a ritual. It was the glue that let them go into danger together and come back alive. The smoke circle wasn't a party. It was survival technology, the ancient version of everything that still makes humans feel like part of something bigger than themselves. And this leads to a genuinely strange idea, one that serious scientists take seriously. Look across human history, and you find the same pattern everywhere. In nearly every culture ever recorded, people found some way to alter their own minds. Fermented drinks, smoke, special plants. It's so universal, and it appears so independently in places that never met, that a psychopharmacologist named Ronald Siegel argued the pursuit of altered states might be a basic biological drive, a fourth drive, sitting right alongside hunger, thirst, and the urge to reproduce, built into us the way those are. Now, this is a hypothesis, not a proven fact, and plenty of scientists push back on it. But it forces an uncomfortable question. If this pull really is that deep and that old, then smoking isn't some modern weakness. It's the latest version of something our species has been doing since before we built a single wall, sitting by a fire, breathing the smoke, reaching for a different state of mind. That's not addiction. At its origin, that's curiosity. The same curiosity that's the reason you have the brain you're using to watch this right now. So if smoke was medicine and ritual and connection, where did it all go so wrong? Here's the dark turn. Tobacco is native only to the Americas. The rest of the world had never seen it until Columbus arrived in 1492. And what indigenous Americans had treated for thousands of years as something sacred and carefully controlled, Europeans turned into something else entirely. Within a few centuries, smoke went from a ceremony to a commodity. By the 1900s, factories were producing the cigarette, engineered to be cheaper, faster, and more addictive than anything before it. And then it got darker. In the 20th century, the tobacco industry spent decades and billions hiding the evidence that cigarettes cause cancer, evidence their own scientists had found. They marketed to children. They tuned the chemistry to deepen addiction. They took something ancient, communal, and reverent, and rebuilt it into a product designed to hook you and harm you. That's the real tragedy of this story. A shaman placing herbs on hot stones in a sacred burial, and an executive signing off on cigarettes aimed at teenagers, both worked with smoke. They have almost nothing else in common. So when did ancient humans start smoking? The honest answer is, we don't know the exact day, and we probably never will. The evidence takes us back 12,000 years with confidence, and the deeper urge, the pull toward fire and smoke and altered states, is almost certainly far older than any object we've ever dug up. It may be nearly as old as fire itself, and honestly, I think this is one of the most human stories there is. We didn't invent smoking to be self-destructive. We found it the way we found everything, by sitting in the dark, paying attention, and asking, what is this doing to me and can I use it? That's the same mind that built medicine, ritual, and community out of a curl of smoke. What's heartbreaking is how recently, and how deliberately, that ancient thing was twisted into something that kills. The smoke our ancestors used to heal and to bond is not the cigarette engineered to hook a teenager. Don't confuse the two. If this changed how you see the people you came from, subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel, the why behind being human. And if you want to see how these same people survived killing heat, freezing cold, the dark, hunger, and the predators that hunted them, those videos are on screen right now. Go watch. Because fire gave us warmth, medicine, and a circle to gather in. But there's one thing our ancestors did around that same fire that we still barely understand. What they did when one of their own finally died. That's coming next.